Hello there! I would like to inform you that what you are about to listen to are the views and comments of the host and the guests only. They do not reflect the views of the community as a whole. Also, side effects of listening to this podcast might include headache, cardiac arrhythmia, nausea, an increase in blood pressure, temporary insanity, permanent insanity, involuntary cursing, shouting, hemorrhoids, spontaneous combustion, abdominal larvae, zombie reanimation, and a permanent loss of faith in mankind. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the podcast.
Hello everybody, this is the It Talks About Podcast, a podcast series talking about cosplay, Comic-Con and everything else. I'm your host Eddie, and this week we are talking about when I first started cosplay photography. Don't worry, it's not about me. It's never about me. Never about me. Joining us on this episode is Kev of Kev Pack Photography. Welcome to you.
Hello, and it's always about you. It's all about everything's about you, Eddie. You are the centre of the universe, or is it just the centre of my universe? I'm not sure.
Oh, if only both those statements were true. Anyway, how are you, Kev?
I'm fine. Working my way through my photography backlog as we all do. So I've got lots and lots of pictures to audit and edit and sort out and deliver. I was at SecretCon at Magna a couple of weeks ago. I did organised shoots, and over the course of the 2 days, I had 18 organised shoots. So that's quite a lot of pictures for me to get through before I do too many others. So so just working through those at the moment. If anybody wants to catch me, I quite often sit over the evening tapping away, editing pictures on YouTube and sometimes Twitch. So watch out, and you can see me on those. I'm sitting at my computer just editing photos is boring as hell. So if I'm going to be sitting at my computer editing photos, I might as well be doing it and seeing if anybody else is online to chat with while I'm doing it.
Might as well. I wish I could do the same. I don't know.
You do most of your editing in a coffee shop, though.
I mean, thank you for calling me out on that. And yeah, I would have to refresh the free Wi-Fi every hour to keep the stream going.
Yeah, I think Starbucks or whoever it is you're frequenting might say, "Where's all our bandwidth going?" Yeah.
It would be absolutely funny to do that. No, I haven't been in a cafe shop in a while. It's either so far been in my home or in a hotel room editing photos. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do that especially when you book a hotel room just so you go around to edit photos for a while?
I can
writers go away for a weekend to a cabin in the woods so they can get their editing done.
Oh man, that's why I'd go to the cafe, because I feel like I'm away from everything. I'm not being distracted by my own flat, my own bed. Things like that could easily distract me. So that's why I go to cafes. But anyway,
I am often distracted by my bed. Yeah.
Oh my goodness me. Before we go really off piece and forget what we're here, I've had Kev on this podcast many times, and we've always spoken about the times he's been in the cosplay community, this, that, and the other. And I just thought, you know what? Let's actually delve into how he has seen the cosplay community from a photographer's point of view over time. I think I've done a cosplayer's point of view, so I thought I'll do a photographer's point of view, and who to have other than Kev, who's literally been around so long
since the beginning of time.
I mean, well, you say that you do own the domain cosplay.co.uk.
Okay, well, I've been around since before the internet. Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm probably the last man standing from as far as cosplay photographers goes in this country, aren't I? So
I know you mean, and we can talk about the future of how we see or how you see things have changed over the years and where it's going to go and things like that. But before we go into that, I always do a welfare check. Kev, how's the last 7 for you? How's the last 7 days for you? Let me actually articulate that sentence correctly. But yes, how has the last 7 days for you?
It's been good. I'm here. I'm ticking. I'm alive. I'm just knackered all the time. Yeah. Real world keeps you busy as well, and like I said, and the fact that I know I've got backlog of edits I need to get out. So then it's a case of, well, I've got this to do. I've got that to do. And then today just running around sorting out stuff for the cats. It's there's always stuff to do. There's never enough days or hours to get everything done. So yeah. But how about yourself, Eddie? How are you doing?
Um, Kevin's gonna half know about this. I literally just got through the front door of my home about an hour ago. I've literally been on a weekend trip to see some friends in Bristol. Shout out to my Bristol Massive. Um, don't ask why I just said that out loud. I never say things like that out loud. I don't know why I just said it. But yes,
You just have it go. It's normally quiet inside your head saying it, is it?
yeah, something along those lines. Something along those lines. Yeah, yeah. But yes, no, I've just literally come back. I've been saying this to a few friends of mine. If you know sports and you know the term March Madness for basketball season, I feel like I'm in the middle of March Madness. I'm literally. Last weekend was the only weekend free. I could just sit around and do nothing. Every other part of this month, I'm busy. I'm away or whatever. So yeah, I'm trying to like catch up with myself, or at least front fill a lot of the things so that I can get ready to post things social media wise. And some of it's working, some of it's not. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So
I think
I
I think you're
yeah.
saying with the nicer weather, it's been your hay fever's been playing up a bit as well, has it?
Oh my god, yeah. So eh, so so yes, my hay fever is starting to play up now, and I thought, oh, I'd never known until now what could be causing it. And I've got this. If you've got a Google phone, it comes with the weather app. Part of it shows you the pollen of either
I think
grass,
most
trees,
phones have a weather
or
app as well.
but this
It's
one
not.
does, no, true. But my one's specifically showing me the pollen types. I don't know if it shows you just
Okay.
pollen overall, but this is showing pollen type, and there's a median rating for tree pollen, but everything else is zero. And I'm thinking, huh, now I know I'm allergic to trees. Well, not trees itself, but the pollen of it. But yeah, but yes, that's me in a nutshell at the moment. So I can't wait to like suffer through the spring months with hay fever. So yeah, I did take an antihistamine recently, and I went, oh, I'm actually quite good. That lasted a couple of days, and now it's kicked back in with a vengeance. So I need to take a few
Yeah.
more before I go to sleep tonight.
I'm quite lucky because I do get hay fever, but it's literally just from cut grass. So if somebody's mowing their lawn or something, I can't go anywhere near it. But apart from that, I don't get on too bad except for cut grass.
Well, I know what I'm throwing in your face when I next see you, just to lord it in my face.
Oh, thank you.
I would never do
Yeah.
that. I would never do that. What I was
Yeah.
going to say? What else? No, yeah, don't know. Besides that, I am doing all right. I'm actually, as I said, I'm really busy. I'm going to be busy in the next 4 weeks. I would have said 4 or 5 weeks, and then I feel like I have a few weeks to like chill and just recollect my thoughts and myself, my energy levels and all that until possibly go to NCM London. I haven't been confirmed that I've got a press pass or not, so fingers crossed I do. And yeah, just just waiting for that email. I have actually sent them an email over the weekend to ask, hello, can I have a can you tell me if I have it or not? So yeah, we'll see. Anyway,
Yeah. Would
oh,
you not go along if you don't get one then?
I think if I'm really honest, I might go,
Yeah.
but I think I won't do a schedule. I think what I'll end up doing is just shooting with friends. And I know that sounds very elitist of me to say that, but it's more that why should I help promote an event when, well, it's more about that's the reason. I don't want to why help with an event if they're not helping me out. But also, like we were just saying, we've got such a backlog of things. I don't know if I can really go out of my way to go shoot with this person, shoot with that person, but I don't know that person. I don't know this person, things like that, and it really does drain me. I'm starting to realize how much these weekends drain me. As much as I don't realize it at the time, afterward it really does, and I kind of need to start picking and choosing when I I take photos if I'm not helping promote the event. If I do get a press pass, I feel like it's my obligation to somewhat promote the
Yeah.
event, and I do like shooting with new people, but I've got to start looking after my own self and things like. Don't get me wrong. If someone comes up to me and go, "Hey Ed, I know you don't know who I am, but can you take my photo?" I'd happily do that, but I would take it more chilled if I didn't have a press pass. That was all.
Yeah, you see, obviously, this isn't what this podcast is about at all, but I'm probably the opposite now. Whereas I've got to the stage now where I want to have a schedule and know what I'm doing when, so that I'm not overdoing things,
Mm.
and know that I've got, just I've got this many things to do, and I'm not doing anything else. And if anybody else comes and asks me, I'm saying sorry, I've got a schedule and I don't have any spaces, and I'm not overloading myself. And then I know how much work I've got to edit and get ready afterwards, so that that I'm not taking on too much. Which I think it's easy to do that. I think.
Oh, 100%, and that's why I do have that schedule. But I think I end up not saying overbooking myself, but I do try to cram myself the moment the doors open till the door closes. And yes, I do book in time so I have lunch and things like that. But at the same token, I feel like I probably should take better care of myself. So yeah, things like that. As you said, we're not talking about that. We're talking about other things. So let's get on with this. So let me front this intro. So as I said, I've done a version of this with cosplayers, and it was with I think it was Jen Zamir, and I want to say what's a cosplay? I could be wrong, but I definitely had Jen Zamir. No, oh no, this is good. Anyway, I had cosplayers talking about it. Shit, I'm now really embarrassed. I've got that wrong. Look, I do a lot of a lot of podcasts. All right, I also do a lot of cosplay.
Yeah,
No,
you do a lot of cosplay photography.
that's the word. Yes, that is it. And I was also thinking, well, let's see what for cosplay photography was when it first started, or as far back as I could find someone. And I haven't spoken to Kevin in a while. I
And you
feel like,
couldn't go any further back than me.
whoa! I haven't spoken to you in a while. I thought this would be a great time to have you on. And yeah, this. See, I haven't heard your beautiful voice in a long time. So,
Yeah, yeah, right. Yes. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
I'll accept it. Let's go on.
Okay, let's get on. Let's go. Anyway, look, we've spoken about this. I don't want to do the two cheesy questions already, but we've spoken about this, like I said, in previous podcasts. But very briefly, because it's in other podcasts, what got you into the cosplay community, cosplay photography, and you know, yeah, just that type of thing. That the start of it.
Basically, I was into Doctor Who when I was a kid. When I was 11, my dad took me down to London to go and see a Doctor Who convention, and I'd already been into photography, so I took my camera with me. So that was in 1976, I believe. So that would be the first time I went somewhere and took my camera with me to take pictures of people dressed up as Doctor Who fandom. So obviously that predates the word cosplay as such. And then I went to various sci-fi cons, and then after that anime cons, and took my pictures of the people dressed up as the various different fandoms, and then gradually that turned into, rather than just the masquerade or the dressing up from your fandom, it became cosplay, and started to become in some ways more of a major part of some of these events. And all the time since the said mid-70s, I've been there with my camera snapping photographs. So that's where I come from. That's how I got involved with it. Started off with Doctor Who, Then probably went to a few Star Trek and general sci-fi events. And then I was involved with anime conventions for a while.
Oh, that's good.
And then,
yeah,
yeah.
go on.
So, no, sorry, what was the question?
No, I was going to ask because when did you? What came first, the photography or the cosplay photography? If that makes sense.
No, the photography came first. I used to do a lot of architectural photography. So I'd be taking pictures of buildings which were being renovated. So, old stone thatched cottages, which were being sort of renovated and rethatched. And I'd be taking sort of pictures doing the renovations. So I wasn't doing people at all. The cosplay side of it, which is what got me into taking pictures of people in the first place. And now, as well as cosplay photography, I do a lot of general portrait photography as well, as you're well aware of. So, so photography came first, but I was already a sort of sci-fi fan even before photography. But then when I went along to my first conventions, then obviously the photography became part of me going along to the conventions.
Oh no, that's excellent. No, that's really good. That's really good. As I've already front loaded at the beginning of the podcast, you've been around. You created you own the handle cosplay.co.uk on online. I'm really fascinated because I always feel that I don't know if I notice this or not, but if I think about it, I probably do. But have you seen that like the type of characters have changed over the years? Are people always doing, shall we say, what's mainstream, or are they always doing comic book characters? Or is it, have things changed? Are people doing more anime, more niche cosplays? Are they, doing
I think
their own
the
version?
nature of the I think the nature of the events has changed. So obviously, when I was saying back in the 70s and 80s when I first started, there wasn't, say, just a general convention apart from perhaps Worldcon. So you'd go along to a Doctor Who convention, you'd go along to a Star Trek convention, you'd go along to an anime convention, and then if there was cosplayers there, they would be from that fandom. You go along to a fantasy event, so it was all very fractured. You weren't going to a Comic-Con and having lots of superheroes and Disney princesses and somebody from games, all together at the same event. So it was a lot more fractured at that time, and you'd just be seeing people specifically from that fandom. Not always from the most popular characters. Sometimes it'd be very niche. Sometimes it'd be people's own interpretations of characters. So that's never really changed. But there's always, whatever event you went to, there would always be the most popular characters from that particular fandom. And it's only sort of in the last, I don't know, 15 years perhaps, where you've started to get more of the MCM type of events where there's lots and lots of different fandoms all together at the same time, at the same place. And well, and to be honest, the superheroes stuff has only really started up at the same sort of time as that, because you didn't used to see a lot of superheroes. Where nowadays, I think if you go along to an MCM, if you split it up, it's probably half superheroes and half sort of things from games like Genshin. So, well, that's how it seems to me.
Yeah, no,
Then other things push more into the sidelines, perhaps.
no, I totally get that. I can see where you're coming from. I can imagine it's just been TV, because you were talking about, you said Star Trek and fantasies and all that.
But this was because these were the things I was into, so I was going along to Star Trek events because I was into Star Trek.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. No, that's really interesting to hear that, because I think when I look back at my time, I felt like I always see TV, like the TV mainstream, and then comic book would be somewhat on par. But I think over the time now, like you said, I feel I see more fantasy cosplays coming through, like D&D, Baldur's Gate type of thing, gaming cosplays now. They're coming through. Every so often I see a book cosplay, theatre, musical cosplays now. Six is quite popular for a while. I just think it's definitely evolved over time. I think there is such a wide range of cosplays that people are now wanting to make and show off to people. I think that it's absolutely fascinating to me. Um, I I don't know how you feel about this, Kev, but how you first started with photography? Because do I dare ask you? Did you always use a DSLR mirrorless camera, or do you go further back?
Well, you know I go further back. I was saying I was taking pictures in the when I went to an event in 1976. There wasn't a hell of a
Oh
lot of
yes,
digital cameras
yes.
then.
No, very
You
true. Sorry. I totally forgot. I don't want to. I don't want to offend you. That's it. But
know.
I was going to say, does that how have you seen the photography side of things evolve then through time? Because as I mentioned, DSLR camera, which is digital, mirrorless is the next,
Mm.
should I say, next form of it. Is it been more accessible, more available? Is it easier now than it was when you first started?
I think it's more accessible now to more people because you don't need a camera now. Everybody's got one on their phone. Don't forget when I'm starting, we had, you had a DLR, not a DSLR. It was just a SLR. Sorry, it's a single lens reflex camera. You're having to load it up with 24 frames of film, and it costs money to have that film developed. So it was a very expensive hobby, and every frame was precious. So you weren't snapping away to hundreds of pictures of each cosplayer. You might take 2 or 3 if you're feeling very generous. Um, and then obviously digital cameras came along, and all of a sudden that restriction was lifted, and you could take several pictures and then go through them to find out which one was the best one and actually in focus, and the lighting wasn't too bad. And then people got more accessible to having some lighting, and all of a sudden it opened up a whole new sort of way of taking convention photos where you could actually light them properly rather than just hoping for the best with the situation you had. Um, mirrorless and DSLRs, not a lot of difference. I think mirrorless in some ways are easier to use and easier to learn because a lot of it is WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get with your. Of course, the lighting's changed again. It's gone from flash to a lot of people using constant lights now. But then it's changing again, and phones are fantastic. You can get some awesome pictures just with your normal phone now. So I'm not even sure there is such a position now for the same sort of photos I was taking right at the beginning when it was just snapping somebody at a convention without any lighting or any idea of editing or anything like that. Nowadays, just general convention photos of somebody at an event, you can get fantastic shots just with a phone. So I do think then it's moved the emphasis of what us as, say, if you want to call the term cosplay photographers, are being expected to achieve, because by we've got to try and do something a next step up. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So things are definitely changing, and they're changing all the time. Yes, some things make things easier for a photographer, or some things actually change the way the photographer works, and some
Mm.
things just make it so that you don't actually need a photographer for a lot of what you're doing.
Yeah, I can't
Look,
imagine.
look
Yeah,
at all
go
the
on.
cosplayers on TikTok.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely, one
Yeah.
hundred percent. I no, I was just thinking. I don't know how I would be able to take photos 40 years ago. Sorry for to going that far back for you, Kev. But I, because obviously, Kev, you've always questioned how I take photos, as in you take like 3 or 4 shots per pose, and you just take the one, which obviously quadruples the number of photos I have at the time. Hearing that you're on film cameras, because I remember film camera being, is it 36 to a roll?
36 was a big roll. You'd normally be shooting 12 or 24 because you tend to shoot smaller rolls of film
Mm.
because you'd have different films with different ISOs. So
Mm.
you didn't want to put too big a roll of film in your camera if then the lighting situation was going to change. Just to explain to the non-photography people out there, uh,
Yeah.
the ISO is the sensitivity of the film to light. So you could, if you wanted to shoot outside in bright sunlight, you'd need 100 ISO speed film. Whereas if you wanted to shoot indoors, you'd need something like an 800 ISO film. So basically, if you're running around an event and the lighting situation is changing, if you've got a 36 exposure film in there, which is 100 ISO, then you're fine if you're shooting outside and it's bright and sunny. But if all of a sudden it gets dark or cloudy or overcast, then all of a sudden you can't take any more pictures until it gets bright and sunny again.
Oh my
so
goodness
you're
me!
better off just doing a 12 shot film at a particular ISO. So then when you finish that film, then you can decide what the situation's like and decide what next film to put in. But don't forget, each one of these films you're using, A, you have to buy the film, and B, you've got to pay for it to be developed, unless you've got your own lab at home to actually develop your pictures. And I used to go to a friend's house to develop, but that was only black and white. And if I wanted to do colour, I had to send it off to the lab to get developed. So yeah, it's incredibly expensive now, but it was never cheap.
So is it cheaper now then to with digital photography then?
Well, digital photography is cheaper now because the only expense is the camera and the memory card. So everything else after that is, how many pictures did you take last time you went to an event?
Oh, let's not go down that road. Oh.
Well, no. I was going to say, because if you say a film is £7 for, say, 12 pictures, just to buy the film, then how many rolls of film would you needed for how many pictures you took at your last event?
Oh God, yeah, no, I would need hundreds. I think. I know. I'll probably take 400 in one day. So
yeah,
I could easily.
And that's not a lot compared to some photographers, honestly.
No, I know. I really, which I cringe at. I really do cringe at.
Yeah, but that's why I've got in the habit of not taking hundreds of pictures of each shot, because I always, in my back of my brain, is this is costing me money. So it's always a case of, okay, all right, I'll take a couple of pictures, I'll see if I've got what I was looking for, I'll check if the pose needs changing a bit, I'll make sure the eyes are open, I'll make sure everything's in focus, and if I have, then I'll move on to the next one. I won't just take more just in case,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that's just because of coming from that film background where every time I push the trigger I'm spending money.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when you did have film photography, don't worry about digital just yet.
Yeah,
because I'm very fascinated about how do you get the photos back to people, or in then times it was kind of like the Wild West of photography. Like, it was so new and nuanced that actually it was just nice to have a photo taken, but where you get the photos actually wasn't the top priority.
Yeah, well, that was it. So back in the early days, you'd never expect to see those photos ever again, because you'd probably never see that photographer again. Back in about 2002, I launched a website, which I think in 2003 is when it really got going and got very popular, where people could if they'd taken photos on film, but by then they could get those film photos digitized. So then you take them to your lab, they'd convert them, and rather than having prints, you could have the pictures put onto a CD, and then they would post you the CD with your pictures on it. So I think it was about 2002, I put a website up where people could upload their pictures they'd taken at cons, so people could find them. Because until then, people had things like, was it MySpace? I can't remember what year MySpace started, but there was a few different places where people had their own space on the internet and would upload pictures to that. But it was very spread out. So I put a gallery together just so there was somewhere in the UK where people could go to actually try and find photos from an event and download them from that. Obviously, times have moved on, so later Flickr became very popular as a photo sharing site for conventions around the UK, and then of course now we got Facebook, and Facebook really took off, and people had lots of Facebook events just for conventions they've gone to, and we're loading up pictures to there. So my gallery, after a while, various things happened and I took it down. But for a time, that was where you went to actually find pictures from UK conventions. But things have changed. It's a lot easier now to find things. Even with just most reasonable photographers have got a web space they're going to put them up to, and will take details down of who the cosplayers are, so they can tag
Mm.
them, and it makes it easy to find things in Insta and well, Insta especially, but Facebook also.
Yeah.
Um, or you put them up on your website and send people links to your website, Eddie.
Um, I mean, yes, no. I put them in a Google Drive and send them the links for this,
Yeah.
but I obviously have to find who they are first, and it's sometimes I'm really lazy, and I really should not be lazy about it. So I should ask the cosplayers their name, their handle, and try to exchange details that way rather than saying, you come and find me. And there has been times where I feel like, oh, I've taken a cracking photo, but not knowing who it is. And it's taken me
Mm.
months and years to find them. But, oh my God, it's you. I remember you, and all that. So it's something like that. It's like there's one photo I took. I can't remember when it was. I think it was post pandemic, and it was someone in Oh, Ocarina. So I think it was a Zelda cosplay. I think it's the Ocarina of Time. No,
Oh yeah.
not the Ocarina of Time. It's the one with the mask.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It starts with an M, and I love that cosplay. And I took photos
Majora's
of it.
Mask.
Thank you, thank you. And I, I swore I had their details, but I lost it and never saw them again until a year
Mm.
later. I'm like, oh my God, is this you in this photo? Oh my God, yes, that's me. Cool, give me your detail. I somehow lost those details now, so so on 2 attempts, I missed out. So yeah, so it's very important now to get their details, but I'm getting better at it now. It's taken me 10 years, but I'm a lot better at it now than I was earlier.
But I think it's so much easier now. You said we've got
Oh
all
yeah.
these ways of keeping in contact with through social media, but it does make it so much easier for doing this. If there's not many cosplays you'll take a photo of, and then they'll say, "Oh, can you give me your details?" And they say, "Oh, I'm not on social media." It does happen, but it's
Oh yeah.
it's fairly rare. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I know we talked about the camera itself evolving through time, but we
Mm.
haven't talked about. You talked about briefly about the lights and all that. How have you adapted to that type of scenario? Like, do you carry lights? Do you want to use lights? Or do you try? Or do you, like myself, try to like be as light as and compact and what's the word I'm trying to say? Mobile as possible when you're at Comic Con.
Um, let's be honest. I don't shoot at Comic Con much anymore. I think
Mm.
that's the answer to this. I started finding, well, it was MCM, rather hostile to me as a photographer. Um, and I was always having issues and being singled out, it felt like, by the owners at the time, who aren't the owners anymore, but it's they're running MegaCon now instead. But at the time, every time I'd do something, they'd bring in a new role. So then I'd do something else, and then they'll change the rule. And it's been noted by cosplayers I've been shooting at that the owner and security would be coming out of the hall and would make a beeline directly to me to stop me from shooting. So and that's happened on several occasions. So in the
Mm.
end, I don't tend to do much at events anymore, even though
Mm.
MegaCon and MCM, I think, are a lot more receptive to cosplay photographers now than they were sort of 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, no,
So,
I find that so wild when you told me that story. I think it's so
oh, it's happened
wild.
a few times. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
ridiculous, but yeah.
let's take, shall we say, your early days of cosplay photography to when you were at was it SecretCon Magna, and
Oh, Supercon Magna was yeah. Okay, so when I first used to do photos, it was literally just me and my camera, and
mm,
I do think that's probably how most people start. And then it was me, my camera, and then a flash gun on top of the camera or to the side of the camera, but all joined together in one unit. Um, I do like having a bit of artificial light in there to balance with the daylight. I like getting catch lights in the eyes and stuff like that. So then from that, it was um, getting the light the speed light off the camera. Whether that was somebody else holding it, me holding it at arm's length, or putting it on a stand. And I've done that at conventions for years. So some conventions have no problem with it, and some started having problems with it. And then if we look at Magna, it got to a stage now where I didn't just go with myself. I went with myself and a lighting assistant. So I had Brandon there running around with all my lights. So I had 2 big RGB LED panels. I had 4 LED sticks. I had 3 inflatable LED lights. Thank you for the recommendation for those.
100%, you're welcome.
Along with a off-camera strobe in a big softbox for when I was doing shots outside. So I was using a lot of lighting at Magna, not all at the same time. It depended on what we were shooting, where we were shooting, and what I needed for a particular shot I was trying to get. So I was using a mix of those lights in different situations. So I've gone from just me and my camera to me and a lighting assistant and a truckload of gear. So I'm still mobile because I've got somebody else carrying them around for me.
It's always good to have Brandon around, isn't it? But just the
funny thing was, I would say that SecretCon did have 3 different sorts of tickets for their event. They had cosplayer ticket, they had photographer ticket, and they had an assistant ticket. So you could be an assistant either for a photographer or an assistant for a cosplayer. So they have split it up to 3 different sorts of people attending their events now, which is very handy. Yeah,
very handy indeed. I just want to say also, it's this type of setup is not unique to you, Kev. I've seen other photographers who either have to have lighting gear and then have an assistant at time, because you should have an assistant if you're having like at some events, because you're not allowed to have stands now. You're supposed to be freestanding and all that, but I digress.
Well, we'll digress a bit, because that was one of my issues with MCM in the past, was that first of all, they said, okay, you can't have a freestanding light. So that's when I went, fine. So I've got somebody hand holding a light. And then they told me, no, you can't have anybody using handheld lights either. Thinking, well, that wasn't against the rules when you said you couldn't have a light stand. So, and like I said, so they just kept stopping me every time I was doing an event. But there you go. So I don't want to break the rules. I just wanted to find a different way of working, which was within the rules. But every time I found a different way of working within the rules, they changed the rules.
Yeah, no, I get that frustration. I do get that frustration. But but I remember I do feel like I've followed in similar footsteps to you, although I do not have a lighting assistant with me. But I've started with a camera, and it's just exploded that you have lenses and one set of lights, a different set of lights, and now, like you said, those inflatable lights has just been such a godsend at right now, because they're lighter, they're portable, things like that. And I'm always looking for new tech like that. So no, it's very interesting.
I will say that I haven't changed my camera or my lenses in years. They haven't changed at all. I've been using my Fuji X Pro 2 since the day it was released, and I bought and the couple of lenses I bought at the same time as I bought the camera. So what I'm using to take pictures has not changed in quite a long time. The lighting changes all the time, just to make things easier or different. So I've been doing a lot more with continuous lights recently, but I'm still using off-camera flash with strobes when the situation dictates. Like when you're outdoors in sunlight, because LEDs aren't great for that.
Okay, that's cool. No, that's good. I think that obviously we've talked about going to a Comic-Con, having a camera and taking photos. We've briefly talked about distribution of photo, but we haven't talked about the editing style. And I'm going to assume there wasn't really much through film photography much manipulation through editing in that sense, or have I got that completely wrong, especially in the
No,
cosplay field?
there was none. There was none at all. Basically, you were taking your pictures. You can, don't get me wrong, you can manipulate images in the darkroom. So that is entirely possible. But I don't know any cosplay photographers here in the UK which were doing that. I think at the time we were all taking pictures with our cameras on film and then sending them off to a lab and just getting sent back a CD. And at that time, you didn't really have any way to edit them, once you got that back.
Mm.
So that's a big change, um, I can't. I'm trying to work out when Photoshop was created.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. How, where, what? Well, have you? I'm assuming you've enjoyed and seen the benefits of using Photoshop, or it obviously you use it yourself. It's not a step too far. It's not breaking any moral stance of like manipulating photos of either making certain models a different shape, or adding a bit of. I've been very delicate how
Right.
I'm saying this, but
Yes.
yes,
Yeah. You are.
contouring and things like that.
Well, I was actually having a look, and Photoshop's been around since 1990, apparently. I haven't been using it since 1990, and I don't think early Photoshop would have been ideal for the sorts of editing we're doing with our cosplay photography. Um, so back in the day, like I said, no pictures were coming back on CD, and you were uploading them then to, a website or later on Flickr. They weren't getting any edits at all. It was just literally, here's your CD, let's upload our photos. Oh, that one's out of focus. I'll probably delete that one.
Mm.
And to be honest, a lot more out of focus then. It's a lot better with digital cameras. They're a lot more accurate than film ever
Yeah.
was. Unless you had a really, really, high-end cameras and lenses.
Mm.
So, but yeah, but I have learned Photoshop. I went to night school to learn it, just so I could get the basics down. And this is, back before you had YouTube with lots and lots of online tutorials and videos on how to do things. So, and then as other programs like Lightroom have become available, I've then moved over to do most of my tweaks in Lightroom, and then now it's just a case of moving on to Photoshop to do the special effects and anything like that. You're right. I can't see any reason why I'd want to do tweaks to a person's body, because that disagrees with me and what I do.
Yes.
Having said that, I've fixed a lot of cosplay costumes and props in Photoshop over the years.
Yeah.
When something's torn, or the stitches gone out of line, or something's broken which needs fixing. Yeah, so I have corrected a lot of costumes and props,
Mm.
and spent a lot of time tidying up costumes and props.
Mm.
Maybe there's something sticking out which shouldn't be sticking out, and I've cut that away. So then I would sculpt that to make it correct. But no, I wouldn't make somebody's face look thinner, or neck longer, or waistline better. That's just, that's nothing to do with the character or how they're portraying it or their cosplay. And my edits are for that, to make the actual cosplay look more as it should do.
Yeah.
And my edits to a person will be simply, maybe fixing some makeup if some makeup's gone wrong,
Mm.
or taking out a zit if they've got a spot on the day but it's not a permanent feature.
Mm.
So things like that, and not a case of just going in and changing how somebody actually looks.
Mm.
But that's me.
Mm. Yeah.
Other
No,
people
that's
might do
fine.
that, and some people might want that happening, but that's not something I'd do for them.
Mm. No, it's interesting, but I mean, it's but with how easily now. I mean, let's say people now have. I mean, what was it? 10 years ago, to do photo manipulation, you needed a big desktop computer and all that. Nowadays, you can just do it on your mobile phone. Now you've got so many apps out there that can do, kawaii, filters and all that. You can manipulate. you got a version of Lightroom and Photoshop on mobile phones. So it's really
You
interesting.
you also see pictures of people online, and then when you see them in real life, they don't look anything like their photos.
Oh,
And I'm thinking,
absolutely.
oh, this isn't a picture of you in your cosplay. This is an um, I can't even think of a word now.
Idolization.
Well, it's basically the ultimate version of what you could have looked like, but you didn't. So,
Yeah, no, I get that. I know, and sometimes I do have to. For me, it's a moral quandary about how much do I allow the cosplayer to have that input of, can you make this different to my own moral lines? Like, because sometimes I do think you should. Personally, I think you should be happy with the body you have and things like that. Like, I know I'm a bit of a chubby guy. I wish I was thinner, but I also like who I am and things like that. And I can easily say that as a male, but I can understand from a female point of view in the way how media is portrayed and all that.
yeah, yeah.
It's not. It's a lot harder on the female gender and things like that. But anyway, that's nothing about that. I want to
Yeah,
yeah. I would,
but it's the
yeah.
same thing with getting AI to replace things. Um, I can do body sculpting, and in some other parts of the photography I do, which is nothing to do with cosplay, I might well be doing body sculpting, or I might be asking AI to change something to do, in an image. But that's not what I do in cosplay photography because I don't think it's appropriate to what I'm doing. But that's me, and I think in every
Mm,
photographer is going to have to make these decisions themselves. Hopefully, in communication with the people they're photographing,
mm.
so people know
No,
what they can expect and what they shouldn't expect.
no, absolutely, absolutely. I do want to move it along this conversation because I really want to hear this question and basically you're you're like kind of like me. You're not just a cosplay photographer. You do fashion photography and more. And
Spicy. Is that what you're
spicy.
thinking?
No, I wasn't actually because I have seen you're doing your fashion photography. I do love your fashion photography,
Yeah.
but I kind of want to know over the years how initially how cosplay photography was seen, probably by your fellow photographers who weren't in the cosplay scene, and if it was like, I'm guessing, it was a bit snippy about it, like, well, that's not real photography, that's not real fashion, but whatever, and how it's seen today, because I think I've seen a real flip of things, how models who just model now are trying a bit, are doing a bit of cosplaying, and vice versa, that cosplayers are doing a bit of modeling now. That's how I see it. Do you agree?
Um, I would say there was no real anti-cosplay photography before. I think it was just a case of it just really wasn't a thing, or it wasn't popular. It wasn't mainstream. It's quite mainstream now. That's the difference.
Mm.
Cosplay isn't a niche anymore, and cosplay photography, while is still just a subset of portrait photography, it's not unusual. It's much more common now. I don't know if it's just you look at social media, and obviously you're in an echo chamber. So what you're seeing is a reflection of what you post and what you talk about. So when I'm on, say, Facebook or even YouTube or anything, I see a lot of cosplay, and the same with Instagram. So to me, it feels much more mainstream than perhaps it is. But I think, if 25 years ago I talked about going to a convention and there was a masquerade where people were dressing up, um, I would have had people I was talking to just thinking, what the hell are you on about? Whereas if you even mention the word cosplay now to somebody, a lot of people will know exactly what you're talking about. Well, that
Mm.
just where even 20 years ago that wasn't the case. 40 years ago definitely wasn't the case. You know,
Mm.
I just think it's just more mainstream now. I don't think people were particularly snippy about it or anti it. I just think it just wasn't very well known.
Oh, fair enough. Then I generally had an impression that was the case a couple of decades ago, but no, it's good to hear that it wasn't that. It was more like you said, it just wasn't as mainstream as it is
Yeah,
now.
I think I just probably, if I was doing a fashion shoot or catwalks, because I did quite a lot of catwalks, I just probably wouldn't mention it because the photographers I was talking to probably wouldn't have a clue what I was talking about.
Mm.
So
No, that's
yeah,
fine. Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, I'm trying to think of the next question, and I think I kind of want to know this opinion of it. It's like, I know you've spoken an incident about conventions, and hopefully we won't need to go over that, but the ones you have been to and you've enjoyed and things like that, have conventions themselves changed? Have they become more photo friendly for photographers, allowing like maybe backdrops, a bit of space here and there, or is it still like the term I'm using is Wild West? So I'm like, got to find your space, got to set up shop here, bring cosplayers to you, things like that. How's that changed over the time, or has it not changed?
it's difficult to say because, like I said, the nature of conventions has changed a lot, hasn't it? So you've got so many more now of these big Comic-Con events. But they're being organised by different companies. You've got Monopoly, you've got MegaCon, you've got MCMs, and so they've all got their own policies. But they seem to be, more um, amenable to photography now. And to be honest, if you look at something like MegaCon, it's pretty obvious. A lot of it is geared up to uh, getting attendees to take pictures on their mobile phones, which is like I was saying, a lot of stuff nowadays is just cosplayers taking pictures of their fellow cosplayers with their phone, or taking pictures of themselves for content for TikTok or Instagram stories or something. So I do think a lot of events are like that, are just catering now because they know that everybody's going to be there with their mobile phone, and there's some excellent pictures you can
Mm,
get from your mobile phones. So I think that emphasis has changed. The
mm,
smaller events, have always been pretty good, on allowing stuff. So if you go to a sci-fi con or a fantasy event, they're probably not going to have a lot of issues with you setting up lights and shooting down a corridor or shooting somewhere in the wood just outside, unless of course you're causing an obstruction. That's a different thing entirely.
mm,
You don't want to be causing a blockage or getting in the way when they're trying to run their events. But and then you've got now a whole slew of events which are more geared to cosplayers and photographers working together. So of course, you've been to VeeCon how many
mm.
times now?
I think this would be my 8th edition this year if I
Wow.
go.
Yeah.
So I think it must be like it first started in 2019, little blip in 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. Oh no, that's I've got 5 on my hand. Why do I think it's? I'm trying to
I
find my
don't think it's
lanyard.
as many as 8. I
Yeah,
really don't think
yeah,
it's that many.
5th edition, 5th or 6th edition. That's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But
And then we've got a SequelCon. Like I said, I was there 2 weeks ago. So we've got quite more of these events now, which are specifically geared up for cosplayers and photographers to work together, and I think that's fantastic. There's been events out in Europe like Pixelmania um, and Volta, so this isn't anything particularly new. But
mm,
and we had down in Reading a couple of conventions down there as well, didn't we?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So. So there's been been a few different events specifically geared towards cosplayers and photographers just to work together, and there hasn't been a lot of other things going on, but it's mostly around just that
Mm,
cosplayers and photographers working together to get good content for themselves,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
all about content these days rather than just photos. I feel.
No, absolutely, yeah. I feel like when I ask the question, "What do you see the future?" I think I already know the answer, but we'll get there in the end. We'll get there soon. Um, I was just gonna say, I mean, when you see like the up and coming photographers coming through the ranks, when they first pop onto the scene, what do you think is the biggest challenges you think they face, or what you face compared to what we face now?
Hmm. It's probably I think we what you tend to find is that once you've been in around for a while, you're going to get some. I'll call them clientele. You're going to get some cosplayers that have worked with you on a few times, and every time you go to an event now, they'll be coming to you wanting photos to take. So people are coming to you to ask you to take pictures. It's not a case so much of us having to go out and find people and see if they're willing to work with us. Whereas I think for a new photographer, without a portfolio of work they've already taken, they're starting cold. So they're approaching people and saying, "Hi, would you be willing to work with me?" And it's an unknown commodity, isn't it? They don't know what the pictures are going to look like, if they're going to get the pictures, how long that's going to take. So I think that's the hard part for somebody starting up, is building those connections and getting their name out there and building a body of work they can actually show and say, look, this is the sort of images I take. Because we've all got different styles, and we all work in a slightly different way, and different styles will suit different sorts of cosplay, and also will be appealing to different people. So there's different photographers out there who you might not want to have pictures taken. You might not want to work with me because you don't like my style of photos, and that's fine. We've all got our own likes and dislikes. So, but I think the hard part for somebody coming new into it isn't the technology. That bridge, I think, has already gone. And it's not the skills, because they're easy to get now just from following tutorials on YouTube, or actually just working as say a lighting assistant for somebody for an event to see how they work. It's actually, I think, building up those relationships. What do you think? Because I'm quite curious to hear your feelings about this one as well.
I think you're right. It's definitely about building that relationship with people. I think that sometimes I like going to a different country, because sometimes you can fall in the trap of, like, once you get, like you said, the clientele and who want to work with you all the time, they'll always want to work with you, and it feels like, oh, if I work with this, because for me, I do, as you know, schedule time slots and all that. So I feel that once a slot goes, that's that's one less slot a person can take who hasn't worked with me. And if there's only a time they could only work with me and it's gone, then it's gone. So me going to a different country, I feel like I can start fresh, I can build up my skill sets of talking to people and things like that. I don't rest on my laurels of I've shot with these people before. It's trying to make sure that I sharpen my skills all the time, and making sure that I talk to the right people all the time and shoot in a way that is aesthetically pleasing to a wide range of people, not just a small subset of people. And seeing new photographers come on the scenes, I do see a variety of, like, those who've just got a camera and just go for it, and rightly or wrongly, it looks okay or it doesn't, But they want to learn the craft, they want to learn the skills, which is always good. You got those who are going from one photography background into another, which I feel that's quite exciting, because again, it's just bringing in new ideas. Like, for me, I never thought about using lights. So to see people bring in lights either they've seen from other people in other industries, it's really exciting to see from my point of view, and just having just trying to expand what cosplay photography could be. And I think the lines between fashion photography, shall we say, and cosplay photography is getting more and more blurred than ever. It's no longer just creating a portrait photography. It's like you need to create an action photo. You need to create a moment that happened in that franchise that people go, oh my god, I relate to that. Oh my god, that's so real, type of thing. I hope that makes sense.
I think, yeah, because I do feel that's sort of, you're looking at how you always want to, as a photographer, be growing and changing as well. So I think a lot of my stuff, say from a few years ago, was more fashion inspired, because obviously I did a lot of fashion shooting at the time.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm hoping that I'm doing more cinematic
Yeah.
sort of images. So you're trying to get a bit more sort of action, and as if it's as you're saying, a scene from a film or a TV show or something, rather than just showing off somebody's costume in a fashion way, or even in an editorial way. So
Mm.
yeah, but so I think but as well as that, you need to keep changing and learning new skills and pushing yourselves as a photographer. Otherwise, it'll just get boring, and then you drop out. I
Yeah.
have to keep reinventing myself and learning new skills. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. Sort of
Mm.
all these years later.
No,
I,
absolutely. No,
I
I
think I
don't get
think
you.
next year is my 30th anniversary of taking
Oh,
Is it 30? No, that's wrong. That's not quite right. It's more than that. 76.
oh, that'll be 50 years.
50 years. Yeah,
Oh,
50 years.
wow. Big 50,
Yeah.
50. Definitely got to do something about that, Kev. You've got to do something
50,
about that.
50th anniversary of cosplay photography. Yeah, yeah. So that's a long time. So yeah, so if, like I said, I think I'm just last man standing, because most people after a while have got bored and moved
Mm.
on to other things,
Yeah, no,
or real life's got in the way more often than not.
no, that's all right. Do you think then that? Well, let's talk about the kind of the future of it then. Do you think the future of cosplay photography is in good hands? That there are photographers coming through the ranks that are kind of like you feel like, oh, I can pass on the baton here, or like you said earlier, is like because photography now is on mobile phones and they're getting better and better. They can be at times on par with mirrorless camera technology or photography quality, that actually the concept of the cosplay photographer is no longer needed or fade away. How do you see that?
Well, I think that's the interesting point, because I think that's why the standard cosplay photographer or cosplay photography needs to move on, because I think just standing around at a convention taking pictures of people in a hall or just outside at a convention is going to be, it already is, it's being replaced by phones. It's the difference in quality you get between taking a picture on the latest Samsung or iPhone of a cosplayer at a convention in a convention hall is not that different from what a good photographer will get at the same place at the same time. So what the cosplay photographer's got to do is it's the added extra. They've got to do it so it appears more cinematic, or it's lit much better and it's more dynamic, or something else. I think otherwise it's what's the point?
No,
Uh,
absolutely. I really do think
yeah,
I think we're both trying to get to is like, if you don't make your photos more what a mobile phone can do, why come to a cosplay photographer and things like that,
yeah,
or what you
yeah,
even doing things what can mobile app can add to it as well, like adding effects quite quickly and quite easily nowadays. So we are fighting such a tide of new technology, and there's a really interesting challenge we face as photographers. Um,
yeah.
I,
So
I
so I
also,
do think there's still a place for a cosplay photographer, but I think that
yeah,
place is evolving. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I was going to ask you this earlier, but I think this is a great place to ask about. Has the rise of social media, has that helped with things, or diminished, or it's not really helped nor diminished, but it's a different form of cosplay photography.
But to be honest, I think without social media, we'd still be where we were, like I said, back in 2000, where I had to put a website together on the internet just so people could find photos of their cosplayers, because it wasn't popular, it wasn't well known. And you had took pictures and people would be putting them up on their own individual websites, and they'd never be seen by anybody, they wouldn't be seen by a community. Love it or loathe it, Facebook, it really did kick off um, community of cosplay in the UK. Now, lots of little communities, um, and then that's grown to with the events like MCMs and megacons, because without that social media, um, you wouldn't have these big groups of friends and cosplay groups going to events and meeting up there and chatting to their friends, because we'd all be split up into our own individual little bubbles, and it wouldn't be there. So I think without big events like MCM and social media like Facebook and Instagram, then cosplay would be nowhere near as big as it's become. I'm not just talking about the UK here. I'm talking about worldwide. Social media and large events is what's done that. A large cross discipline events. Things which are inclusive to lots and lots of different niche hobbies. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I'm gonna bring this to an end, but I'm gonna ask this one last question before we sign off, and let's do a cheesy question. Let's end it with a cheesy question.
God. Okay.
I know,
Right.
but I hope it's a good one. And basically, just any memorable, unexpected thing that's happened for you as a cosplay photographer that you always remember. I think I'm glad that I'm a cosplay photographer.
I can only think of the bad things.
Oh no!
That's not good, is it?
No, that's not good.
It's like I can remember going to one of the Doki Doki conventions here in Manchester, and taking a picture of a cosplayer. This is years ago. I think it must have been the first Doki Doki, and then showing them the back of a camera. We said, "Oh, that picture's fantastic! That's really amazing. Your camera must be awesome." I'm thinking, great, thanks for that. I said, I really like your cosplay. You must have an amazing sewing machine.
No, that's literally, I was going to create a meme about that. If the next person that says that to me, I might have to do that at Comic-Con next time I'm there. But yes, I know what you mean. I'm sure you do have good memories of being a cosplay photographer and things like that.
Yeah.
I've been.
Well, it was a good memory. They really love the images, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. But no, I've been to your home, and you do display some of your cosplay work in your home. I've spent time with you on shoots in the studio, both ones that I've hosted and some in your studio. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but I do seem to learn something new about photography through you, and I always thank you for that. I'm grateful for it at the same time. So yes, no, absolutely, thank you very much. And I think we should bring this to a close. So thank you, Kev, for being on the podcast. I haven't checked if Kev wants to do a podcast extra, but we'll discuss it at the end of this podcast. So there may be one or not. We'll see. But but before we do that, anyway, Kev, if people need to find you on the social medias, where can they find you?
For cosplay, go to cosplay.co.uk. There you go.
Should if they want to find your fashion stuff, where can they go?
Okay, so for most other things, if you just go to kevinpack.co.uk, or just go onto Facebook and look for Kevin Pack Photography, I'll be around.
No, absolutely. And if you need a studio and you're in the Manchester area, he's got a studio you can use and hire. So
yeah, or if you're a cosplayer and you're in the Northwest, then I don't charge anything for shoots either on location or in the studio. So just hit me up. You can go through my website and just drop me a note from there.
Fantastic. If anyone who is not following me on the social medias, if you go to foodandcosplay.org/links, you'll find my social media links from Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. The lot is all there. If you go to foodandcosplay.org, you'll find my portfolio of photos there. If you go to foodandcosplay.org/podcast, you'll find previous recorded podcasts with my guests, with other guests, lots of other subjects ranging from cosplay, photography, Comic-Con, the lot. And if you go to patreon.com/foodandcosplay, you might hear a podcast extra. You might not. Give it a go.
I'm available. Yeah.
Oh, cool. We have to. We'll think of something. We'll keep it photography related. So if you want to hear, should we talk about future projects maybe, or and then have a bit of a chinwag at the end of it?
Could do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I could do that. All right, let's do that. Oh yeah, because there are a few projects we're together, which it's not cosplay related, but I don't mind talking about it. But because it's behind the paywall.
Yeah,
But anyway.
that'd be good because then I can find out what the hell's going on.
Well, on that note, then I'm going to end the podcast. Then, so I'm going to say goodbye. Kev's going to say bye, and thank you for listening to this podcast.
Yep.
So, bye, guys.
Bye.